How can abstract art be political?
It messes with you. It convinces you that what you think isn't all. And it challenges you to understand something that is different, that a person can be just as good in difference and sometimes adversity, opposed to what you believe. I mean, if that's your tradition of, you call figures, you don't understand art anyway.
It can be political by opening people's minds, by allowing them to have their own free expression of what they see and what they believe they see. And maybe in some small way, I don't say it's, political in the same way as the political stance that much art takes today, but it's political in a opportunity for people to express themselves and to see and believe in what they see. And I think that's the basis of a political statement, really.
How can we talk about what is abstract at all? I would say it's something relational in a way. It has always relation to something in real life, like in everyday life. The inspiration comes from what I see, how I merge things. It can be also really everyday situation. Some kind of tomato growing in the garden, how it changed in one evening. And the perception of the horizon at the seaside, I guess, or the consistency of the oil paint. I think in every material, like you work, it's possible to find something worth thinking of that can lead somewhere.
Yeah, I tend to I guess I tend not to think about it as abstract and concrete, but more I tend to think about it as, I guess it's about the process that brings it there in some ways, and the process is that it starts abstract, and then I start to see within it many infinite possibilities of what it could become, and then it ends up becoming about what starts to speak to me more, what wants to come out, why does it want to come out. It doesn't mean it has to stay, it could go away also, but then it ends up being about this transformation of things, I like catching things between this transformation. So a figure is sort of turning into something else, or it's in the middle of transforming to another element or so, like a figure is turning into a smoke, or a plant is turning into an animal and such. So I think because it's in the middle of this transformation, and because it's sort of in this state of ungraspable situation, it ends up looking like it's there, but it's not there. You could grasp it. If you see it, you grasp it, but then you could also lose it. I mean, it could go out of your hands,
I find that very often one idea. Let's say I'm painting a watercolor, and I look at the shape around the watercolor. I'd say the negative space. My eyes are almost calibrated in a way, I think, because I spend a lot of time here in the studio, always kind of looking at strokes and shapes and concentrating, trying to process, and sometimes I'm trying to place strokes in other parts of paintings, and you're sort of concentrating and on these often quite strange, mushy shapes. And I find very often that when I leave the studio, I'm almost kind of manic. Everything I see is processed in the same way that I'm processing when I'm in the studio. So in between branches, the negative space between branches and leaves becomes a stroke. And And the pattern that a car has made in the water when it's raining becomes a part of a painting. So it's almost like I'm finding also my own paintings out in the world. And somehow I guess I'm storing that and then coming back here and then using it.
I have no real interest in figurative painting. Of course, historically, most painting was figurative, and of course there are some wonderful historical paintings that are of course, they're figurative. It goes without saying. But my own interest lies with painting which is more abstract and to do with trying to leave the painting whereby something is suggested, something is hinted at. So when you look at the paintings, it doesn't feel completely alien to you, but at the same time, you can't quite put your finger on what it is. I think there are enough tables and chairs and people in the world already. I don't see the reason why painters have to paint them as well. Not anymore. It seems to me that with all of the other art media that there now are, photography, video, and everything, all of which also can make art and can reproduce things, it seems to me now the question for painting is to how to actually work with painting in such a way that you are making something which is very specific to painting, that none of the other media can do. So you're looking for a sense of something, the making of something, which can't be made in any other way. So that it's authentic to painting and purely to painting.
When you spend time with the paintings, then different things start to emerge, like absence of figures or parts of bodies or different other, like all kinds of other images kind of become more, like seem to emerge from within the abstraction, and then kind of it folds back into abstraction or this sense of. So I feel like they're very visceral experiences, and the more time you spend with them, the more kind of you have a visceral, like felt experience, but it's not necessarily an experience of knowing.
I suppose I think of abstraction as something which speaks of pure feeling and the feelings that you get from looking at things. I'm not really an abstract painter. I don't really understand abstraction on its own terms. I'm definitely a figurative painter, and I think I'm trying to move the dial towards abstraction, towards something that's more about the material, about the surface, about my body as I'm painting the work, and more about that kind of body language that's involved in painting, as a way to take something from the looked at to the experiential.
I never think of them as resolutely abstract. I find that such a limiting vocabulary for what I think is everything. There's everything in the painting for me. There's skin texture, there are smile lines, there's grimaces, there's wombs, there's flesh, there's sly kind of exchanges between people, there's eye glances, there's arms. Everything is also related to the body in the way that the painting is made. So it contains a body in it because you can see the way my body moves through the painting. But I also think that I need a whole nother lifetime to make a different body of work. I started off when I was initially painting all those years ago, I was painting very figuratively. You know, with great effort, trying to paint in a kind of hyper-realistic style. And then after a while, I tried to paint in a way that was very naive and incredibly sort of rejecting all of that classical training. So I made sort of cartoon, which, you know, unfortunately, if you Google, you'll still come up with. You see all these different lives of your painting journey before you as an artist as more and more time goes on. And it is quite disorienting to look back and see all these different ways, because how do you arrive at a style, you know? And have I arrived at a style? I think it's really slippery territory to sort of pigeonhole that. So I think the painting will continue to evolve. It's in a kind of flux. And for me to find a way of painting that felt my own it's been 10 years of just relentless failure, basically, to now come to something that I think is sort of starting to be okay.
I see no separation between figurative and abstraction. I think this is actually a mistake to define abstraction as something separate from figurative. Figurative is about appearance, but abstraction, what does it mean? It's all about us, ultimately. If you look at the leaves, if you look at the pattern on the stone, if you look at the structure of the cell, if you look at the structure of the galaxies, all of them, I mean, they are also part of, would you call that abstraction? No, they are part of life. They are all different steps. We only, what we call appearance, and that's to do with human appearance. I've been there. I mean, human appearance is the only thing we know? No. I mean, inside my body, there are cells which right now working very hard to keep me alive. Those cells have relationship, they have structure, and they're not abstract. We're just not aware of them. So the appearance is not the only reality that we have.